The can opener came 30 years too late. Picture a British soldier, 1815. He's holding a metal cylinder, sealed, airtight, full of preserved beef. No pull tab, no instructions, no tool designed to open it. He reaches for his bayonet and starts stabbing. You assume the tin can is one of history's quieter inventions. Domestic, minor, unglamorous. That sounds reasonable. It is spectacularly wrong. The tin can fed Napoleon's armies, almost certainly killed 129 men in the Arctic, and a 2011 Harvard study found it can spike a hormone-disrupting chemical in your body by over 1,000%. Something that ordinary shouldn't carry that much. Two threads worth following. The man most credited with inventing canned food never actually made a tin can, and what's coating the inside of your soup can right now has a story that rhymes uncomfortably with lead solder. The answer changes more than you'd expect. Here's what most people assume. The tin can was invented for kitchens. Consumer demand, domestic convenience, industry followed. Clean and obvious. The tin can was invented because Napoleon Bonaparte couldn't feed his army. By the late 1700s, France was fighting on multiple fronts simultaneously: Italy, the Netherlands, the Caribbean. Feeding soldiers in the field was a logistical catastrophe. Salted meat rotted, biscuits went moldy, men were dying of malnutrition before the enemy got anywhere near them. In 1795, the French Society for the Encouragement of Industry offered 12,000 francs, roughly equivalent to several hundred thousand today, to anyone who could devise a reliable method of food preservation. That prize sat unclaimed for 14 years. The man who finally won it wasn't a scientist or an engineer. He was a chef, and the solution he found was hiding in a bottle of champagne. History in plain sight. Champagne, France, 1790s. Nicolas Appert, former chef to French nobility, son of an innkeeper, is running experiments in a small workshop. He's packing food into glass champagne bottles, sealing them with cork and wax, and submerging them in boiling water for hours. The food doesn't spoil. He cannot explain why. That detail matters enormously. Appert had cracked the essential logic of food preservation 50 years before Louis Pasteur would describe germ theory. He didn't know he was killing microorganisms. He believed, loosely, that removing air was the mechanism. He was partially right, entirely fortunate, and undeniably brilliant. By 1803, his preserved foods, vegetables, meat, fruit, fish, were undergoing sea trials with the French Navy. In 1806, the gastronomist Grimaud de la Reynière tasted his canned peas and wrote that they were green, tender, and more flavorful than those eaten at the height of the season. In 1809, the prize committee awarded Appert his 12,000 francs, on one condition: publish the method. He did. In 1810, the art of preserving animal and vegetable substances became the first documented canning manual in history. That same year, British merchant Peter Durand patented something Appert had never quite managed: the tin plate canister. Metal instead of glass. Portable, stackable, durable. By 1813, the firm of Donkin Hall and Gamble had opened the first commercial canning factory in Britain, supplying the Royal Navy. Appert's method crossed the channel, changed materials, and became an industry. And Appert saw none of the profit. He died in 1841, buried in a common grave. But that's only half the story. Armies adopted the tin can immediately. The Crimean War, the American Civil War, where Union soldiers were eating canned oysters, canned tomatoes, canned condensed milk from Gail Borden's company. Wartime demand built the American canning industry almost from scratch. Here's the misconception worth stopping on. You'd assume that when someone invented the can, someone also promptly invented a way to open it. An obvious follow-through. A natural second step. Nobody invented the can opener for nearly half a century. Early tin cans weighed close to a pound each, thick iron walls, nearly impossible to breach without heavy tools. The Royal Navy issued instructions to open cans with bayonets. Some American consumers used rocks. A label from the 1830s reportedly told buyers to Cut around the top near the outer edge with a chisel and hammer. The first dedicated can opener was patented in Britain in 1855, more than 4 decades after the first commercial canning factory opened. In the United States, Ezra Warner of Waterbury, Connecticut, received U.S. patent number 19,063 in 1858. His device resembled a cross between a bayonet and a sickle. Grocers kept it behind the counter and operated it for customers, because the tool was considered too dangerous for unsupervised home use. The rotating wheel cutter, the design you'd actually recognize, didn't appear until 1870. By then, the tin can had already done something catastrophic. This is where it gets strange. May 1845. The HMS Erebus and HMS Terror depart England with 129 officers and crew, bound for the Northwest Passage. The Royal Navy had provisioned the expedition with 8,000 cans of preserved meat, soup, and vegetables, enough on paper for 3 years. None of the 129 men returned. For over a century, historians pointed to Arctic conditions, catastrophic ice entrapment, failed navigation. Then, in 1984, forensic anthropologist Owen Beattie of the University of Alberta began examining the preserved remains of crew members. Lead levels in the bones were 10 times higher than in comparable populations of the period. The cans had been sealed with lead solder, applied quickly, sloppily, running directly inside the canister and in contact with the food itself. The provisioning contract had gone to a London supplier named Stephen Goldner, who won on the lowest bid and rushed production to meet the Royal Navy's deadline. The seams were contaminated throughout. Those men weren't just trapped in the Arctic, they were being systematically poisoned by every meal. Lead poisoning produces confusion, fatigue, paranoia, degraded judgment. The exact capacities they needed to survive, steadily destroyed with every tin of soup. The invention designed to sustain men in hostile territory may have been what killed them. That's the irony you don't find on the label. And the modern echo is uncomfortable. A 2011 study in JAMA, led by Jenny Carwile at Harvard University, found that eating canned soup daily for just 5 days raised urinary BPA levels by 1,221% compared to eating fresh soup. BPA, bisphenol A, is an endocrine disruptor used in the epoxy lining of many metal cans. The lead is gone. The question being asked of the container is not. Americans use roughly 130 billion cans per year. The industry generates about $15.7 billion in annual economic activity. A double seam machine, the technology patented by the Max Ames Machine Company of New York in 1904, now seals more than 2,000 cans per minute. Most major manufacturers have transitioned away from BPA-based linings under regulatory pressure, though many replacement compounds are still being evaluated for long-term safety. The can itself hasn't changed much. Airtight, heat-processed, shelf-stable for years. Nicholas Appert's core logic still runs every commercial cannery on Earth. Seal it, heat it, keep it. He figured that out in a Paris workshop in 1803, 50 years before anyone could explain why it worked, and died in a common grave without a franc to his name. The thing that outlasted him is still on your shelf, wearing a different label. So the next time you hear that small mechanical pop, the seal breaking on a can, know what you're holding. A technology born from military desperation, refined through industrial shortcuts, tested fatally in the Arctic, still imperfectly regulated 2 centuries later. Nicholas Appert never understood why his invention worked. Ezra Warner's can opener was considered too dangerous for home use. The men who took the cans to the Northwest Passage didn't come back. The tin can has always contained more than the label says. If this changed how you look at your kitchen cupboard, drop a comment below. What everyday object do you think carries a stranger history than it lets on? The best answer becomes the next episode. This is Object Lore. The history of the world is hiding in plain sight. Until next time.